Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome everyone. Now a while ago I did some videos on making some whistles like this. Experimented with different lengths and shapes and stuff like that to try and get different tunes. I wanted to go back to something like that, and that's where I came up with this. It's a form of whistle. I believe it's probably classed as what you call a four-hole ocarina. The ocarinas were originally created, I think, from Italy in about the 1850s. They were usually made of things like clay. They could be made of wood and other materials as well. They were also in a form of what they call as a sweet potato shape. They were more in a round sort of shape, bodied a bit like a potato, with the mouthpiece sticking up at the top that you blew down. And they could have up to around about, I think, 10 or 12 holes in them. I think in about 1960s that the four-hole ocarina was actually created in the UK. These do come in various shapes. Probably the most common one that's known is more like a turtle shape. It would have a hole on the end for a neck piece that you could just wear around your neck, pick it up and play it there straight away. Before I really go into what got me onto this, and I'll have a proper talk of this at the end, I'm going to show the video of the making, but it's not of this one. I didn't actually video that one. This was the one I was working on, which was classed more like a 6-hole, even though there's 2 small holes there for 7. I'll explain at the end why this didn't work. Hopefully you've seen with the video, the principles of making this one are almost identical to making this one. The main difference is that with this one, I actually drilled a 35mm hole with a Forstner bit. This one's a 25mm hole in it. And for carving out these pieces on here, because I haven't got any chisels small enough, basically just use an old screwdriver that I don't ever use and just sharpen it up on the grinder. So it becomes like a mini chisel, and that's got a blade there roughly about 5mm in thickness, so it does allow to carve out the channel for the mouthpiece and the ramp that comes out on the sound hole there. So the first thing, really, what was the failure on this? Why didn't I carry on? Wasn't overly happy with the shape of the mouthpiece. It's a real mess carving on the top there, which is when I did this one, I left this end piece here square so I could then just file it flat and then stick a piece of wood on the top to create that channel, and it's a lot tidier. This end was all just then finally shaped off on the belt sander. Still not brilliant. Now the problem I had with this one, it's going to be a bit difficult holding this in. Most of the notes play absolutely fine and the tuning was going fairly well. So we've got a C, I think that's a C there. That goes up to a D and E, F, G, A. But when you get to the top notes, the B and the C, they've just lost it. They've become very airy. Now some of that could be the way the actual sound piece with the ramp and everything is all done in there. That could well be the problem, but I thought, right, well, I'd already glued this on. It becomes an absolute nightmare to work on this, so I thought, right, I'll make another one. Now what got me onto these? Well, what started was I started off with this one, and the main difference between the whistles and really something like this and the flutes is that the way this mouthpiece and this sound hole works If you imagine, like with most whistles, what actually happens there is that the air, often not, it hits that lip on the cup there, and the air goes in, circulates around, and it's often not when the air is coming back out of that it actually makes the sound. Now, when you get starting a flute, I mean, I've drilled a hole right through the bottom of this one. It doesn't play anything, and the main reason for that is that with things like flutes, what happens is the sound is generated from when it hits that lip, and most of the air comes out, which does absolutely nothing, but it's the sound then, that's the air that's actually being split and sent down the actual body of the piece there, which is rippling, which actually creates the sound. So you have to be very, very precise in creating like that. Now, if I close up the hole, I do get a very high pitched sound. I did actually create the mouthpiece as a separate piece, and if I close the end up here, it then becomes a very, very short body piece, and again you get the whistling sound. Basically what's happening here is that the hole in there is so fine that when it comes out, the lip that it's actually hitting on is at the very, very top here, so it's very, very small amounts of air that are going up over the top, and therefore the air is all being pushed into the main body, and it's when it circles round and then comes back up again that it's then hits, it's distorting all the air, which makes the whistling sound. The best example of that I could probably give is if you take, say, like the referee's whistle. They're a straightforward air piece in, it circulates around, and then it comes back up again out the top of the sound piece. And again, what's happening is that the air is going in all the way around, no air is escaping to start with, and it's when it circulates round, it's actually hitting that crossover of air from what's coming in and what's wanted to go out of the actual sound hole, that it's causing all the vibrations. What's different with the flutes is that the air is hitting that lip, some of it is going in, but most of it's going out. And the first thing I actually made was this, and again I've given up on this because of the tuning issues. It plays absolutely fine on the bass. It's a bit high pitch, which I think some of that could be the borehole diameter, but then when I was tuning the first hole, I couldn't really get the notes high enough and tuned in properly, so, and as you can see, the hole is starting to get quite big. This is a form of a Native American flute, and what's happened here, again, I've created this in two pieces. Don't know, I glued it, no. Created this in two pieces. So, and that was basically because I could drill through the one piece there with a long drill bit that I got. It's about the maximum length I could have done on this borehole size. It was then easier to create this separately, and again, mouthpiece I created separately there. The Native American flutes, what they tend to do is that they will have what they call the one chamber here, which is sort of like the slow air chamber, and you'll have a smaller mouthpiece, so it blows air in there, but then what comes out of here, you'll have a small hole that comes up, and then you'll have that same very, very small channel underneath. Then the air goes across that small channel, then it hits the lip very much like a whistle on the top there. Again, most of the air is coming out, only some of the air is going back in, and it then drops down into this final chamber here, which is then travels down here and out the bottom. So because I couldn't really do anything else with that, that's when it got me searching around and doing these. Again, this is not fully working as I like it. The higher notes, I mean, this is on a bass C again, so I think that's a C. So we go up then to a D, and then through all the various notes. But again, at the very, very highest note with all the holes uncovered, which should be then back to a C again, on the very high notes, it's not actually playing right at the very top there again. It's hard to get the airflow correctly to do it. It's just too airy and not producing the notes. So again, I will be revisiting and probably doing more on that as well. So a lot of that is all to do with the size of channel you've got here that's going through there. how well this lip is lined up for that air to hit and go in there. So you need to really make sure you've got maximum sort of vibration when it hits that lip for the air going in there. Also, the hole placement can cause an issue as well if they're too close to the sound hole on here. Quite pleased with that. Does take some getting a bit used to try and get those higher notes, but it's something I'm going to be tackling again, and I may well do another video to follow up on this, and certainly when I redo something like this as well. Be interested to hear your thoughts on that. If you've got any extra thoughts on doing alterations for this style, then please do let me know in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching.